Today I'm going to be talking to you about the full moon in Virgo occurring on Tuesday the 7th of March at 12:40 p.m. GMT at 16 degrees 40 minutes of Virgo. I'm going to be talking about some of the energies and themes that are present in this lunation, as well as the aspects and how to work with them. So do get yourself a nice hot drink, settle back, relax and enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So some of you may know that I've been creating new and full moon forecasts for Patreon, and I've been sharing some of this information on my Instagram, and I've also been creating new and full moon custom tarot spreads to go with each lunation, and I create a full written forecast for each lunation with the aspects, how to work with them, how they may be presenting within our lives, depending on which house the relevant sign occupies for you in your natal birth chart. My forecasts also go into shadow work that you can practice, as well as ritual and practice ideas and suggestions, and herbs and crystals that you can work with as well. And you also get a downloadable PDF of the tarot spread. So that is still available on my Patreon at the moment, and I've decided to start doing videos to go with these as well, because I really enjoy putting these forecasts together. I really love working with the moon, and especially looking at how, as the moon moves through the zodiac signs, the new and full moons are so different from one another, and even more so when you look at the different aspects that occur. So I'm really passionate about this, and it's an absolute love for me. So that's what this is all about. I really hope that you enjoy. So let's just get right on in to discussing the full moon in Virgo. So as I previously mentioned, the upcoming full moon in Virgo is occurring on Tuesday the 7th of March at 12:40 p.m. GMT at 16 degrees and 40 minutes of Virgo. And as with all full moons, the sun directly opposes the moon. The sun is at 16 degrees and 40 minutes of Pisces. So I'm going to talk about some themes that are going to be prevalent within this full moon. This Virgo full moon requires us to ground into the sovereign truth of who we are within our hearts, as well as how we are embodying that physically. It asks us to remain rooted and strong in the face of unexpected revelations of secrets and deception, as well as the potential for frustrating situations, aggressive confrontations, toxic behaviours, and manipulation around what is seen and unseen in certain circumstances. There is healing and self-love potential within this full moon if the opportunities are harnessed. Notably, there is an uncomfortable looking T-square from the Sun at 16 degrees of Pisces, Mars at 21 degrees of Gemini, and the Moon at 16 degrees of Virgo. Neptune at 24 degrees of Pisces is also square to Mars in Gemini at 21 degrees, and opposite the Moon in Virgo at 16 degrees. Mercury and Neptune in Pisces also oppose the Moon in Virgo. Mercury in Pisces also makes an outer sign conjunction with Saturn in Aquarius at the critical anaretic 29th degree, ahead of its ingress into Pisces, occurring less than an hour after the full moon. There is also a strong trine from the moon in Virgo at 16 degrees to Uranus in Taurus at 15 degrees, and sextile the sun at 16 degrees of Pisces. This is the 6th consecutive full moon at 16 degrees. Numerologically, 16 denotes independence, introspection, self-reliance, growth, and wisdom gained from experience. This echoes a strong healing conjunction that we can see between Jupiter and Chiron at 13 degrees and 14 degrees of Aries, respectively. Venus is also conjunct Jupiter and Chiron within 5 degrees at 18 degrees of Aries. There are also notably 5 planets currently in mutable signs, so the energy is that mutable quality. So we have Mercury, Sun, and Neptune in Pisces, Mars in Gemini, and the Moon in Virgo. And this demonstrates a need to remain grounded, rooted, stable, and secure within ourselves as sovereign whole beings. Full moons are a culmination of energies and often a time of great intensity. They shed light on the truth and reveal the reality of what has been in shadow or hidden until now. Virgo, where the moon is currently full, speaks to the ways in which we physically nurture and take care of ourselves, our bodies and minds, and continually strive to improve our routines, behaviours, performance, experiences, and services for others. The archetype of Virgo also denotes a whole sovereign being, without the need for any other individual to make them complete. Depending upon which house of your natal chart Virgo occupies for you, this is where you may see these themes highlighted. It's interesting to note that aside from Black Moon Lilith and the South Node, both which are points rather than planets, there are no other notable planetary bodies on this side of the zodiac. This could indicate further revelations within the collective surrounding healthcare systems, pay strikes, workers' rights, governmental bodies, education, hospitality, housing, charities, and areas within the public sector. Personally, the energy will affect the area of your life related to the whole sign house in which Virgo occupies for you in your natal chart, especially between 11 and 21 degrees. In terms of archetypes, Virgo is the mutable, receptive, feminine by duality, not to do with sex, earth sign. It is ruled by Mercury and it's symbolized by the Virgin Goddess. This energy is all about personal sovereignty and wholeness, discernment, daily devotions, how we take care of our bodies and minds, taking steady steps towards improvement in all areas and being of service to those around us. The archetype of Virgo strives to work hard, to keep persevering and honing skills and practices. It examines what has been working well, what can be tweaked and refined. Virgo is often thought of as somewhat of a perfectionist, but truly a Virgo understands that hard work is required to see the rewards. Virgo expresses with integrity, care, respect, reverence, honour, refinement, compassion, reserve, diligence, practicality, sovereignty, and empowerment. Although a shadow side of the Virgo archetype is a tendency to panic or get upset if something doesn't go to plan or isn't quite as they'd hoped or envisioned it to be, I think there is often a kind of innate inertia with Virgos, and so they might struggle to even begin for fear of it not being just right. And the key to this is just to feel the fear and do it anyway, and to accept that perfection isn't the goal and that it's the journey rather than the destination. I had an experience which spoke to this recently with my Virgo son, who is a beautiful, kind-hearted, caring boy who's always thinking of others' needs. He's very careful and considerate with his play. His room is mostly always tidy and he's very cuddly. He will get upset when the hunger monster comes out and over seemingly little things to us, like the ketchup on his plate falling in the wrong place. If he gets upset, it is the end of the world to him and he won't hear otherwise. Tears and desperate screams. During half term, I took my son and daughter to a local museum where I'd booked us tickets to attend a workshop to make a miniature dens and fairy houses. My daughter, who we believe may be on the spectrum, was absolutely delighted, creatively liberated and thriving with the whole process. It's interesting because there are so many situations where our daughter struggles immensely, but the confidence and creative empowerment I watched her wield was so inspiring. My Venus is in Virgo, and I felt my aesthetic perfectionism bubbling away as I pondered how I should go about starting my fairy house. I wanted it to match my dreams of what my fairy house would look like. And my Virgo son stood there and paralysed with creative inertia, a look of fear in his eyes. Gabriel shouted at me, "Mummy, I don't know what to do." Well, I totally understood where he was coming from. I could see this sensation of rising anxiety was so strong for him. I just tried to encourage him to play with it and try to put the pieces in different places to see what he liked the look of. I asked him to watch how Rosalie was moving the pieces around to see what she liked the best. All the while, Rosalie is confidently crafting this wild and unique fairy labyrinth, not a doubt in her mind. It was so beautiful to see her expressing herself so freely. "Mummy, please put the glue there," she instructed me assertively. It took Gabriel and I a few minutes to relax into the activity, but in the end, we each created our own fairy dens. Mine was covered in flowers, and Gabriel's was very symmetrical and organised. It's interesting because I do feel that this full moon plays a lot into our deep fears and anxieties. So perhaps there is something that the Virgo archetype in your natal chart is showing you, which requires further attention and support. Think back to any intentions you set for the Virgo new moon in August 2022, as you may see themes come up for you once again as the moon comes to its fullness in Virgo. Those with planets or points around the mid degrees of the mutable signs may feel this lunation more powerfully than others. So according to Folklore, the March Lenten moon occurs following Lent, and it's known astronomically to be the last full moon of winter, which, full transparency, I don't feel I'm really ready for, but we're getting there. The March moon is referred to as the worm moon, according to the native South American folklore. It was considered a time that the earthworms would emerge and they would leave wavy trails along the thawed earth. In North American folklore, the moon is also known as the crow moon, after the cawing, which would signify the onset of spring. Other folkloric names for this moon include the crust moon, sap moon, the moon when the leaves break forth, and the chaste moon, each referring to a natural occurrence in the location at this time and the onset of spring. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some shadow work that we can engage with at this time. As with every full moon, we experience an opposition between the sun and the moon, with the sun in the watery, intuitive, sensitive sign of Pisces and the moon in the practical, service-driven sign of Virgo. We've been asked to consider what the moon is highlighting for us personally. Where can we create solutions to challenges? Where can we intuit new ways of improving patterns, habits, or routines? Where is more healing required? How can we trust our hearts and the divine to provide us with the answers to the as yet unknown? How can we have more patience with ourselves as we evolve and improve as beautiful, imperfect works of progress? How can we understand ourselves to be whole as we are in our imperfection right now? At every full moon, there is a need for dynamic balance, and that is to say, whilst the Sun, Mercury, and Neptune reside in the watery depths of Pisces, where not all is as it seems, where there may be distortions, the unseen, the unknown, misconceptions, as well as the enchanting and the mystical, intuitive, dreamy, and spiritual. The moon is shining light on the practical needs of the everyday, the physical body, the daily routines and habits, which require some refinement, attunement, adaptation, and a physical representation and manifestation of the inner work which has been occurring. The Virgo-Pisces axis is understood to be the axis of health and well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And with the moon in Virgo, this relates to our daily habits and routines and discerning small changes that we can make within our daily lives to connect to our bodies, breathe, be more mindful, and express our divinity as we move through the world. This axis is also highly emotional and empathic, which makes both signs eager to please and to offer love and service to others. Virgo rules the digestive system, so themes of cleansing, toxins, purification, herbal remedies, etc. are relevant. So whilst the Mercury-ruled Virgo desires practicality, order, and usefulness, the opposing Sun highlights the Piscean energies. As Mercury is somewhat at a disadvantage in its full and debilitated in Pisces, and so struggling to communicate with clarity or interpret information, Neptune in Pisces is also clouding our judgment further with its dreamy, escapist fantasies and delusions. So I'm going to discuss this in more depth in the full report, which is available on Patreon, which is a written forecast, and I go into great depth around each of the aspects in that. So if you would like to access that, then please do click over. There's a link in the description box, and you'll be able to join on Patreon. Both archetypes are known to be kind and thoughtful towards others, and often their happiness can be found within offering service to others rather than a concern for material comforts. And what is truly of value to these signs are the experiences within the body and within the mind and the heart and the spirit. So the body and mind being Virgoan and the heart and spirit being Piscean. Connecting these together in a holistic way and supporting others with this wholeness of mind, body, heart, and spirit. So now, as we find ourselves emerging from the dark depths of winter, there are some aspects which remain in shadow, but what we've been able to work through up until now can be brought into the light, processed and transmuted into physical solutions, release, changes in habits, routines, patterns, etc., to move towards an improved future. Perhaps, as I understand others may have been, you have found yourself diving deeper than ever into the cocoon of hibernation this winter. Have some shadows you previously worked on resurfaced? Has the ongoing healing work just been exhausting and you've just stayed within this hibernation for a while longer than you thought you would? The Moon in Virgo archetype is nurturing in a service-giving way. They like to problem solve and provide solutions for others. They can give a lot of their time and energy towards their family and those they love. They appreciate structure, order, organisation and usefulness, especially within their own homes and spaces. The Moon in Virgo is naturally in touch with the health of their physical body, but some may have a tendency towards worry. The Moon in Virgo seeks to provide value and quality within all relationships, specifically personal connections. The Moon in Virgo in shadow may express as being overly particular or possessive within relationships. There may be a proclivity towards codependency or toxic relationships, an overwhelming need for validation, and a lack of self-reliance. And that's something to watch for with some of the aspects that we're going to discuss. The Moon is asking us to be conscious of our physical presence as we show up and how we channel our divine energy through our bodies and into our relationships. We can care for others whilst remaining sovereign and whole within ourselves. This becomes an empowering place where we can say, I love you and I want to be around you, but I don't need you. Our ability to survive and thrive is not dependent upon the love, presence, or validation of another. There may have been some healing work or shadow work that occurred for you around this, or perhaps this work for you has been more about your perception of your value in the world as a mother, a friend, within your career, your relationship with your body, money, mental health, etc. As we approach Aries season and as Saturn is about to ingress into Pisces, we can start to bring this healing work forward and ground it into reality with practical and long-lasting changes to improve our lives. Pisces is a mutable, receptive, feminine, by duality, water sign, symbolised by the fish, and its ancient ruler is Jupiter and its modern ruler is Neptune. Pisces is a visionary, dreamy, poetic, intuitive, sensitive, emotional, reflective, artistic and spiritual sign. Pisces is all about unconditional love, forgiveness, compassion, harmony, peace, oneness and healing. Like its opposing sign Virgo, Pisces is also a sign of service for others, but rather than offering practical support, Pisces holds safe space for emotional release. This full moon calls us to unite the intuition with the body and ground our healing work with embodiment practices and manifestations of that healing. Just as the moon doesn't have a particular dignity in Virgo, the sun is the same in Pisces. However, if we consider the qualities of the planets and the archetypes of the zodiac signs, Pisces is more of a natural place for the moon, and similarly for the sun in Virgo. Whilst the illumination is happening in Virgo with the full moon, there's a need to come back to the life force of our hearts and feel our way forward at this time. Feel. There's an emphasis on that word. And whilst taking into consideration how information may be murky or unclear with Neptune and Mercury also in Pisces. There are two quotes that came up for me while I was looking into this chart for this full moon. The first speaks to the human fear we all experiencing when navigating the unknown. I feel this mirrors the fears and projections that may arise with the foggy and confused Mercury in Pisces and the Mercury-ruled Mars in Gemini square to Neptune in Pisces. The quote reads as follows: "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." And that is H.P. Lovecraft. The second quote speaks to the magic and beauty which can be found within the unknown if we trust and have faith in the divine, which I feel so strongly from this Pisces sun, especially with the sun's sextile to Uranus in Taurus and the moon in Virgo's trine to Uranus in Taurus. And the quote reads as follows: "There are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception." And that is Aldous Huxley. As always, there are rituals and practices within the full forecast available on Patreon, so do click over to access those. So the invitation from this full moon is not to assimilate the shadow work as such. I feel the word assimilate implies a kind of obligatory completion or ending of the work, and rather I think of this suggestion from the full moon as an invitation for a collaboration of sorts to bring the practical knowledge, experience and learnings that have come to light from the Virgo full moon together with the innate wisdom, the divine interventions, spirit communications, sacred downloads, visions, dreams, astral experiences and shadow work excavations of Pisces season. The work is to ground these back into the body, the heart and soul, and mentally check in, to say hello, a nod to the wisdom and growth, and the further questions and inquiries that will no doubt arise. And it's a time when we can see, wow, that's a lot. Look how much I've worked through. Look how much I've helped myself and others, and served myself and others, challenged myself, praised myself and praised others, loved myself, loved others, shifted my mindset, supported myself and others, celebrated myself and others. And we can celebrate that. The invitation is to sit with this physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual knowledge of all of this, centering, grounding, centering again, and holding space in your heart, physical body, and etheric body for the weight of this gnosis. The spiritual work is really tough. It's challenging, and for those who choose to engage in it, it is a lifelong process and journey. It's not one and done and then fixed. Supporting ourselves through these moments is so important, and giving ourselves the grace and compassion to stop, to hold ourselves, and to give ourselves that celebration, that absolute just wow when we do feel that we've reached a healing point. But also to give ourselves that self-care. True self-care and true self-love for ourselves is honouring the work that we do. It's resting before we hit a wall of exhaustion. It's understanding our own needs and meeting them. The Virgo archetype understands its needs and knows how to meet them alone. Virgo can also support others to be the same beacon of hope for themselves in sovereign wholeness. Even if you have no planets or points in Virgo in your natal chart, the Virgo archetype is still there in one of your houses and rules over an area of your life. This is where the full moon is occurring for you and calling for you to embody yourself as who you are, whole, complete, and perfect in your human imperfection. Wherever you are at with your shadow work, healing work, light work, etc., whatever resonates for you, hold this wisdom in your heart, body, mind, and spirit. Ask yourself how you can be compassionate and hold space for yourself tenderly as you show up for yourself in this way, bringing yourself out of hibernation and into the light again. This question and those listed can help to support us to show up empowered in our sovereignty and to align further with our higher source purpose. So I'm going to go into further depth about the aspects in the full forecast, but I will just let you know what these are. Obviously, the full moon in Virgo is opposing the sun in Pisces at 16 degrees. The sun is conjunct Neptune at 24 degrees, and this is really heady, ethereal, dreamy. This is even further muddled with Mercury in Pisces at 7 degrees, conjunct the sun within 9 degrees, and the landscape becomes even more murky and unpredictable. Mercury is in its fall and debilitated in Pisces, and as Virgo's ruler, it's unable to provide the correct information, mental clarity, etc. There are also wide oppositions from the moon in Virgo to Mercury and Neptune in Pisces, which of course intensifies the impact these planets have over the moon. Full moons are typically exhausting for many people, but as a result of these intense aspects, it may be even more so, and also very emotional for some. There may also be a lot of mind chatter and overwhelm, especially for people with planets or points and mutable signs, especially within the orb of lunation. And some also may experience digestive disturbances as well if this manifests within the body. So just to bear that in mind. Brain fog may also overtake for some, and so I would be inclined to suggest that if there is this kind of fogginess, just to go with it, because the resistance will just cause more harm than good. Just allow yourself to be in a space where you're able to rest and relax and cancel your plans and just engage your mind in a safe, comfortable way, whether that's watching a program or reading a book that is light and comfortable for you. So Mercury, as I said, is uncomfortable in Pisces and making an out of sign conjunction with Saturn in Aquarius at the anaretic 29th degree, just ahead of Saturn's ingress into Pisces, which occurs less than an hour after the full moon. This conjunction indicates a need for clarity around one or multiple situations. This might not even surface until several days following. There's also some other suggestions here that we might want to be cautious around how we consume and communicate information. And also it's a time when people may be called out for lack of transparency and information sharing being a problem. I speak more about Saturn entering into Pisces within the full forecast. So there is also this T-square from the Moon in Virgo and the Sun in Pisces to Mars in Gemini at 21 degrees, also ruled by that debilitated Mercury, which only adds gasoline to an already inflamed irritation with this fiery T-square. So Mars is stressed and Mercury is foggy, and so there may be some explosive situations which are confusing. There could be some drama, outpouring of emotion, confusion, aggressive confrontation, frustration with inanimate objects or situations or people, petty arguments and squabbles, pointing the finger, passive-aggressive behaviours, projection of responsibilities, or just confusion in terms of communication. So a suggestion for this is if you feel that there is that Martian energy rising within you, stress, frustration, or irritation, a really good thing to do is to channel it into something either physical or creative, which isn't too structured or demanding or rigid by nature. So something like writing poetry or abstract painting or doing some kind of ecstatic dance like the 5 rhythms or improvised yoga or movement. Anything that you like, which you can incorporate this energy release into a ritual to facilitate this healing for yourself. And you can center and ground any residual energy as well with the grounding practice I list within the full forecast. The aspect that I like the least is Mars in Gemini square to Neptune in Pisces. It's a tighter square within 3 degrees, but it's also more of a combustive nature, I feel, because you've got the fire of Mars with the illusions and deceptions and this kind of nightmarish quality of Neptune. I really just don't love it. And I feel like some of the possibility for inflammation or irritation with the T-square is it kind of even more enhanced here and can lead to proper drunken fights or dangerous accidents, inflamed arguments, because the information sharing is really unclear and there's just misunderstandings and miscommunication going on. And I also see a potential for gaslighting and projection of fears onto others with this aspect as well. So I would really strongly advocate caution if you intend to be out, especially on the eve of this full moon, as well as the eve preceding and following. So be safe to avoid confrontational situations or people that you have ongoing or reoccurring disagreements with. And I would not attempt to smooth over any situations with friends. Don't try to argue your point across because your message is likely to get lost in translation. So there are always loopholes to working with these aspects. The time isn't quite right to get a concrete solution right now with a person that you work with perhaps, or even within your romantic relationship. But if there is a pure intention there and you are both coming at it from a place of authenticity, integrity, honesty, and mutual respect and care, then there is an opportunity here that you can fortify your bonds of connection and trust throughout the challenging times. So although you may not reach a solution if you have a conversation at this time with someone that you trust and that someone you can have that open dialogue with, it might still support your further interactions with them and then lead to a really, really beautiful solution in the future. So there are ways to work around some of these aspects. There's a really beautiful trine within 1 degree from the full moon in Virgo to Uranus in Taurus at 15 degrees. And the sun in Pisces is sextile Uranus in Taurus. So there could be just unexpected aha moments, clear paths or blessings, something, some good luck, a stroke of good luck. There is also a potential for healing around this Jupiter, Chiron, Venus conjunction at 13, 14 and 18 degrees of Aries respectively. And this is like a powerful nudge towards appreciating, how far we've come as individuals, how we've healed, how we've reintegrated these wounds of ourselves. And also even if there are those fragmented parts, that this takes time and it's like a time to check in to see, where you've healed, what still needs more work, and then what lies in between. And to delve into what is in between, and then to really celebrate ourselves as heroes, as holy sovereign beings, and how we've become stronger and how we've healed, and look at the wisdom that we've gained through this work. So as with all of the aspects, look at your whole sign natal chart to see which houses these planets and points are working within. These will signify how and in what areas of your life the planets may be speaking to you. These are areas where you may need to be more mindful around communication. You may need to be more restful, nurturing, and compassionate towards yourself. So check your whole sign natal chart using free online software astro.com or astroseek.com. So if you would like to access the full forecast, you can read much more in detail and depth about the aspects at play here within this lunation. And I'm also providing some beautiful rituals and practices, some suggestions for you to engage in that will be really supportive for you at this time, and some more insights around what might be helpful for you at this time, depending on what you're going through. I am also suggesting some beautiful herbs and crystals that you might wish to work with during this time, and what these things can aid you with as you do your work with this full moon. So I really hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that this served you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a really blessed full moon in Virgo. I hope that this video has been enlightening and supportive for you and your journey. And if you enjoyed it, please do click the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. And also click that little notification bell to receive notifications when I create videos just like this and other witchcraft and tarot content. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I also have a Patreon where you can access the full written forecasts for the new and full moon. These forecasts also include further practices and suggestions for rituals and shadow work, as well as herbs and crystals that you can use in your practice for this lunation. I also include the tarot spread for the particular lunation, and that is bespoke to the moment. So on Patreon you can download a PDF of that, and the graphic is also available on my Instagram. If you wanted to look at the spread prompts there, you can do that. So do click over to Patreon and join us there if you would like more content like this. I also create some custom Book of Shadows pages with rituals and recipes that I've included on the channel, so those are occasional as well. So do come over to support the Patreon. I'd love to see you there. There's also a Discord server which is really lovely as well. And follow me over on Instagram as well, where I share quite frequently what I'm up to, what I'm reading, what I'm working on, etc. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video and it serves you. If you made it to the end of the video, please leave me a little moon emoji. Do take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you in another video really soon. Many blessings. Bye.